think we had. Elementary class study here. Mouth is the biggest done. So mouth esophagus done. For mouth and esophagus, what are the functions? Okay, take your question, check whether you are able to answer. Yes, Prasad, इसका ये क्यों हालत है रे? ये change करना. Okay. First question you write, number 1. Number 1. Name the method by which nutrition is carried out in amoeba. Name the process or method by which nutrition is carried out in amoeba. Which topic is going on while you were absent the other day? You remained absent. You'll have to ask your friends. I think I had started the other day. Check what was the last topic. When you were present the other day, I had discussed with what? Open closed stomata. And then I started with, we discussed about nutrition in amoeba. We discussed about human digestive system. I had started. So check out with your friends what we had done. Okay, take those questions. Number 1, name the method by which amoeba takes in food or amoeba performs nutrition. 1 line gap. Number 2. 1 line gap. Number 2. Write down the overall chemical equation of photosynthesis. Write down the overall chemical equation of photosynthesis. Number 3. 1 line gap छोड़ो for the answer. Overall chemical equation of photosynthesis. And
what was the first question?
First question क्या था? Name the method by which nutrition is carried out in amoeba. Name the method by which nutrition is carried out in amoeba. Last, leave 1 line for the answer. And now number 3. Now number 3. Number 3. Write down. Define peristalsis. Define peristalsis. Define peristalsis. देखो, just 2 minutes time में देने वाली हूँ, फटाफट try answer. Name without the book. Whatever you have understood, you have to write. Don't copy from the book. You were absent. It's okay for you. Check. याद है? Whatever you have understood, are you able to put it in your own words? The first question is very easy. Only that 1 word to write. I will give you 2 minutes. After that, I'm going to ask you. Keep reading, children. Keep reading. As and when the portion is getting over, keep reading little by little. So it will not be difficult at all. Only 4 ही तो chapters पढ़ने हैं. That also if you keep piling up, then it will be difficult. What is the answer for the first question? Phagocytosis. Phagocytosis. I had explained to you the concept of phagocytosis the other day. Diagram drawing is important here. You'll have to draw the diagram. This was the concept of phagocytosis that we had studied. How does the amoeba take in food? Endocytosis, and then the process with the help of the digestion with the help of lysosomal enzymes, throwing out the waste by a process known as exocytosis. So collectively together, phagocytosis. Come to the next question. Now this all of you should be. Abhi kyun piche? Overall chemical equation of photosynthesis. How many of you finished writing? None? This part of the chapter is done in school?
We have not started.
Not yet. Done? You I don't know. You were there, no, when I was teaching this? Yes.
Last lecture.
This I taught before that. This I. Please पढ़ो. पढ़ो. थोड़ा पढ़ते रहो. Otherwise, everything syllabus will be over. You will not be able to understand anything. Yes. Overall equation photosynthesis क्या लिखेंगे? How many molecules of carbon dioxide? 6. Plus how many molecules of water? 12. उल्टा लिखा. चलेगा? But don't write during the exam. मतलब? अरे नहीं, ये तो तुमने respiration का equation लिख दिया. Photosynthesis, 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 12 molecules of water, then the arrow, above the arrow what should you write? Chlorophyll, and नीचे sunlight. अब products. First product, primary product क्या लिखना है? 1 molecule of glucose, C6H12O6. And उसके बाद next product, byproduct क्या लिखना है? 6 molecules of oxygen and how many molecules of water? 6. Done? Overall chemical equation of photosynthesis. Please try practice. Find out time for every subject, so it is easy. Number 3, peristalsis. Define peristalsis. This is what I was teaching you the other day, the last day. What is it?
Peristalsis is a wave of rhythmic contraction and relaxation of walls of elementary canals known as peristalsis.
Very good. What is peristalsis? The entire wall of alimentary canal keeps on contracting, relaxing so that the food can pass, so that the food can mix with the digestive juices. So what was the definition I told you? The wave of rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the entire wall of the alimentary canal is known as peristalsis. So what is the need? So that the food passes from one part to the other. What is the need? So that the food mixes with the digestive juices. So we have been talking about the mouth cavity the other day. Mouth, the major part, the tongue and the teeth. We had already talked about that. The major function of the tongue, swallowing of the food, placing the food between the sets of teeth. These are very general, very common. Name the type of tissues the esophagus is made up of. What did we understand the other day? Made up of smooth muscles. If it is made up of smooth muscles, then the process of contraction will be absolutely involuntary. Smooth muscles of the body we cannot control, we cannot regulate. So what type of muscles is a esophagus made up of? Smooth muscles. And the process of contraction is involuntary. What is its function? Only passage of food. From where to where? Mouth to the stomach. Does this carry out any step in the process of digestion, breakdown of the food? No, it does not carry out any process so far breakdown of the food is concerned. Why? Why does esophagus does not carry out any steps of digestion? Because this entire tube does not release any enzymes. Also, near the esophagus, can you see any digestive glands present which can pour their secretion in? Nothing. So near the esophagus, there are no digestive glands. What are digestive glands? The other day I mentioned. Which are the digestive glands? Liver, pancreas, and the salivary glands. So the digestive glands, what is their job? What is the function of digestive glands? Produces variety of enzymes, secretions, which help in the process of digestion of the food. So why does the esophagus does not carry out any step of digestion? When you get this question, what to write? Because surrounding the esophagus there is no digestive gland. Also the esophagus does not produce any enzymes on its own. So that's the reason the esophagus can only help in passage of the food, no step of digestion. But now if I talk about the stomach produces enzymes on its own. Yes, digestion हो सकता है. What about the small intestine? Surrounding the small intestine, there is the pancreas, there is the liver. So the small intestine produces enzyme on its own and surrounding भी काफी सारे digestive glands है. So definitely the process of digestion is maximum here. Take one question. What are enzymes? Next, we are going to start now. What are enzymes? The next part of the alimentary canal. To understand, you'll have to know this word. What are enzymes? Right? Enzymes are the biocatalysts or chemical substances. Enzymes are the biocatalysts or chemical substances that break down complex food substances into simpler forms.
Complex
Food substances into simpler forms. Complex food substances into simpler forms. So now the third part of the alimentary canal. I'm still talking about the alimentary canal. We had been talking about the mouth and the esophagus. So now the third part of the alimentary canal that I'm talking about would be the stomach. What is the nature of the stomach? To talk about what is the stomach made up of? The stomach is also made up of smooth muscles. So this should give you an idea that if the stomach is made up of smooth muscles, the contraction is involuntary, meaning will the stomach also show the process of peristalsis like the esophagus? Yes. The stomach, the walls of the stomach also will show peristalsis, same like the esophagus. Now the stomach is made up of smooth muscles. What is its function? The function, to write general functions, is it helps in the temporary storage of the food. What are some general functions of the stomach? Yes, temporary storage of the food. The food can remain in the stomach for 3 to 4 hours. And during this period, the process of digestion is complete. So yes, one function is temporary storage of food, and the second function is digestion of the proteins, especially. I'm talking about digestion of proteins. Now, as I talk about the concept of proteins, what are these proteins and carbohydrates and fats if I talk about? What are these? These are nutrients present in the food. So I may understand that the proteins present in the milk and the egg and etc., the pulses and the beans, carbohydrate proteins in the bread and the rice etc., the fats present in the cheese and the ghee etc. Different type of food items that we consume, different type of nutrients enter our body, but there are different regions of the alimentary canal where the process of breakdown will happen. Process of digestion will happen. It's not that stomach can carry out digestion for all. Small intestine can carry out digestion for all. Always to understand that stomach carries out digestion for certain type of nutrients, mouth carries out digestion for certain type of nutrients, but yes, intestines can actually carry out digestion for almost all because it is so long. There are different sections. So now I start with the concept of stomach and I'm mentioning what are the two major functions of the stomach that you are asked to write. Two major functions. What will you write? Temporary storage and number 2, digestion. Digestion of the food. Digestion of the food with the help of enzymes. Just now you had written down what are enzymes? Biocatalysts. What is the meaning? Breakdown of the complex food. Proteins to be broken down to simpler form so that it can go into the blood. You are consuming a bowl of pulses, some grams, some nuts which are rich in protein. In that form, the protein cannot go to the blood. Hence, the need of the enzymes. Variety of enzymes all throughout our alimentary canal produced by the digestive glands. What is the job? The job is break down this complex form to simpler and simpler form so that they can enter the blood and then go to the cells.
If stomach doesn't go through the movement of peristalsis, Will the hydrochloric acid will produce in stomach?
Yes. The stomach wall has got a variety of cells. The secretion will keep happening, but maybe a little bit lesser. What will not happen if the stomach wall does not undergo peristalsis? What will not happen? The food will not get mixed with the gastric juice. Then the digestion will not be that appropriate. Digestion, the efficiency of digestion will fall. That is true. But secretion to cell hormones ke, by the message of the hormone, secretion will keep on happening. Secretion will not stop because that is based on the messages given by the hormones. Okay. So now we are talking about the smooth muscles of the stomach, and hence why I mentioned this. Always remember peristalsis, involuntary. So these are the words always associated. Looking into the stomach here, the stomach has got different types of cells. All throughout the inner lining of the stomach, has different types of cells. Then what are these different type of cells producing? All these different types of cells, they are producing different types of substances. One, I may talk about the hydrochloric acid. Second, I may talk about an enzyme. And third, I may talk about a certain type of a slimy substance, that is the mucus. So talking about what is present inside the stomach, what is released inside the stomach is, the stomach produces the gastric juice. The word gastric always referring to the word stomach. What does the stomach produce? The stomach produces gastric juice. What is its composition? The composition of the gastric juice is hydrochloric acid. The composition is an enzyme, and this enzyme is known as pepsinogen, and the composition is mucus. So what is the composition of the gastric juice? Three major components. What is it? Hydrochloric acid, pepsinogen, and mucus. Now talking about the role of the hydrochloric acid, what is the job of the hydrochloric acid? Let us try finding out. What is the job of the hydrochloric acid? The job of the hydrochloric acid is, this hydrochloric acid, it maintains an acidic medium. Maintains an acidic medium. Why? For the process of protein digestion. Maintains acidic medium for protein digestion. Just now I mentioned stomach is a region where protein digestion can happen. Pepsinogen, S-I-N-O-G-E-N. So now what is that one function of hydrochloric acid? Functions of hydrochloric acid, for 2 marks you get questions there, so you should be very clear. I'm talking about what is the role of hydrochloric acid. सबसे important role है, this hydrochloric acid will maintain an acidic medium in the stomach. Acidic medium मतलब what is the pH of the stomach? pH of the stomach is generally 1 to 2. If you remember pH scale, you remember that pH scale 0 to 14 and 7 is neutral. The 1, 2 if I mention in, that is strongly acidic to weakly acidic. Strong. 1, 2, 3 if I'm talking about. So काफी strong है. So when I'm talking about the hydrochloric acid produced by the wall of the stomach maintains an acidic medium. Q, because for the process of digestion of protein, an acidic medium is always necessary. What is the other function of the hydrochloric acid? The other function of the hydrochloric acid is activates pepsinogen. Activates pepsinogen. Activates pepsinogen to pepsin. Now what is pepsinogen? I'm talking about this pepsinogen, the enzyme produced by one type of a cell of the stomach. One type of cells of the stomach produces the enzyme known as pepsinogen, meaning one type of cells of stomach produces an enzyme, and the enzyme is not directly ready for the process of protein digestion. They are always in their inactive form. Actually, it is not only for the stomach. For every group of cells in our body which releases enzymes, enzymes are always released in the inactive form first. उसके बाद some other type of chemical always makes it active. So ये common rule है for whichever part of the body you talk about. Now I am talking about pepsinogen. One group of cells of the stomach produces pepsinogen. So how is this now can this pepsinogen break down the protein? No. So this pepsinogen has to come in contact with hydrochloric acid. So I may talk about an equation something like this, that these pepsinogen in contact with hydrochloric acid only will get converted to pepsin, and now this is the active form of the enzyme. This active form of the enzyme now can act on proteins and start the process of breakdown. The third component that I was mentioning was what? Mucus. What is the role of mucus and how is the mucus spread out? I would understand that this mucus layer or the mucus that has been produced ultimately results in the formation of a lining or a layer all over the inner wall of the stomach. So a mucus lining जैसे all throughout the inner wall. But why this mucus lining? At times,
the
stomach wall. Kab?
from the hydrochloric
When
after the release.
hydrochloric acid is released and when the amount of the food in the stomach is much less. For example, I may talk about that when you have your dinner by 9:30, and next day morning when you have your breakfast, it may be again another 9:30 or 8 o'clock. So on an average, every individual has a gap of 10 hours. But food gets digested in 2-3 hours, removed away from the stomach in another half an hour, 1 hour. So the food, undigested food, or the process of digestion is still continuing in the small intestine, but stomach se almost 3.5, 4 hours में पूरा खाली हो गया. Now in this stomach there is hydrochloric acid. In this stomach there is mucus lining. So now the food is hardly present there. So this hydrochloric acid can very much erode the walls of the stomach, can destroy the cells of the stomach, because hydrochloric acid at all times little bit is always there. So that can always erode the walls of the stomach. So the stomach wall or the cells are made up in such a way, this mucus lining prevents the eroding of the stomach wall. The stomach wall is prevented from getting eroded. अब अगर erode हो जाएगा तो what is the problem? What is the big deal? Problem यही होगा कि next time when again food is there, again when we take our breakfast and the food is there, the process of digestion will be disturbed. एक तो ये situation है. What else? What can be the other situation when the stomach wall needs to be protected from the action of hydrochloric acid when we are fasting? Long hours we are not eating food, or when people take long hours of gaps for eating food, long fasting hours, then the stomach wall, if 1 or 2 days of fasting में अगर stomach wall erode हो जाएगा, then the person will have massive gastric disorders. But that does not happen. That does not happen because the mucus lining can protect the stomach wall from getting destroyed, from getting dissolved by the action of the hydrochloric acid. So what are you supposed to write down? What is the job of the mucus? What is the role of the mucus? We'll write one answer there. What is the function of the mucus secreting cells in the stomach? What is the function of the mucus secreting cells in the stomach? What temperature? Na? Likho. What is the function of the mucus secreting cells of the stomach? Function of mucus secreting cells of the stomach, right? The mucus secreting cells in the inner wall of the stomach, mucus secreting cells in the inner wall of the stomach produces mucus. The mucus secreting cells in the inner walls of the stomach produces mucus and forms a thin film, FILM, and forms a thin film. Forms a thin film over the cells. Thus, forms a thin film over the cells, thus protecting the cells from the action of hydrochloric acid. Protecting the cells from the action of hydrochloric acid. What all of you?
Repeat the second one.
Protecting the cells from.
The starting.
You have to pick up child, you have to be fast, little bit. Speed, increase your speed. Which is that? She has finished. Did you write? Complete the answer. So now, when we are talking about this, I said mucus. आया समझ में? Now, what is the job of hydrochloric acid? Right, two functions of hydrochloric acid. You are already aware. The two major functions of hydrochloric acid क्या है? Maintain acidic medium for the digestion of proteins. Next, activates pepsinogen to pepsin. ये सबसे important point है. एक और point भी है which will be there in your book written. Now that we eat food, even your homemade food cooked and kept in a very hygienic condition, do you think it is absolutely germ free? इसमें भी microbes है. But only that, the vada pav outside and the food inside when we are cooking in our own homes and etc. maintaining all hygiene, वहाँ पे अगर 10% microbes है, तो the outside food has got almost 80% microbes difference यही है. But then these food when enters our mouth and then the esophagus and the stomach, the hydrochloric acid also helps in killing the microbes which is there in the food. So ये third point है. I am talking about this. This also you should be able to remember. Killing microbes. Hydrochloric acid also helps in killing the microbes, but this is a less important point to mention. But if at all in your exam 3 points अगर आता है, then you can mention this. Okay. Now I had already mentioned this. This is very important. So now, what is the role of the stomach? After the stomach, we now talk about the next part of the alimentary canal. What is the next part of the alimentary canal? The next part of the alimentary canal, the fourth part of the alimentary canal is the small intestine. So the small intestine, what are some of the features? The small intestine is extensively long. The small intestine is extensively long. The small intestine is extensively coiled. And talking about the entire alimentary canal, what is the length of the entire alimentary canal? If I have to talk about, roughly about 9 meters. Out of these 9 meters, the small intestine is almost about 7 meters. So, which is the longest part of the digestive? Which is the longest part of the alimentary canal? The small intestine. The small intestine के major features, right? Two structural features of the small intestine. क्या लिखना है? Two structural features: long, extensively coiled and narrow. Long, extensively coiled, long and narrow. ये है basic structural features to remember. Basic structural features क्या है? And what is the significance? Now, what is the significance that the small intestine is long, coiled, narrow? That is also a question that you are asked in your paper. So let me just talk about the general points. I say small intestine, the longest part of the alimentary canal, roughly about 7 meters. And basic features है, it is extensively long and coiled and narrow. Functions क्या है? What are the functions? Two major functions of the small intestine. क्या लिखना है? Two major functions of the small intestine. Number one is it completes the process of digestion. Completes the process of digestion. It completes the process of digestion. Number two, carries out the process of absorption. Carries out the process of absorption. Now, try understanding. I'm talking about two words. One is digestion. Completes the process of digestion. What does this mean? Small intestine is one part of the alimentary canal where variety of enzymes are there. Digestion of all the three types of food can happen. Carbohydrate, proteins, fats, all the three types of food can get digested here. Process of digestion is complete here. But that is not all. Digestion has to be complete and the food has to go to the blood and then the cells. That is absorption. What is absorption that I mentioned here? Digestion के बाद how will the food reach the body cells? वो important है. You are eating an egg. Egg के जो nutrients है that should reach your body cells. That is the process of nutrition. You are eating a bowl of pulses or dal. उसके जो protein है that should get broken down to simplest form and reach your cells. You are eating a bread, bun, rice, roti, etc. उसके जो carbohydrates है that should get broken down to the simplest form, reach your body cells. So that is the concept of digestion, nutrition. So I said, what is the function of the small intestine? Small intestine में digestion complete हो जाता है. The process of digestion is all done in the small intestine. Large intestine, next, then I'm going to talk about does any step of digestion happen? Then will I write ever that large intestine also carries out the process of digestion? No. पूरा digestion small intestine में complete है. After the process of digestion is over, now next what? Absorption, meaning nutrients to move to the blood and the body cells. So that also starts happening in the small intestine, or majorly takes place in the small intestine. I'll show you. Then now, when we are talking about the small intestine, after these two major functions, let us talk about the parts of the small intestine. The parts of the small intestine, three major parts. One is known as the duodenum. The second is known as the jejunum, and third is known as the ileum. Now, these two parts you have to remember. Three parts. I talk about which one is the duodenum. In your book also it is the duodenum. This is the first part of the small intestine. You can mark in your figure house in the textbook. This part is known as the duodenum, the first part of the small intestine. Take out your textbook, refer to the diagram that you have in your textbook and label these three parts in your diagram. Name the three parts of the small intestine. Which are the three parts? Duodenum, जो एक very very important part of the small intestine है. So mark this part as duodenum, all of you with pencil. Mark this part as duodenum, the first part of the small intestine. Duodenum mark करो. जिसके पास textbook नहीं है, write in your notebook and later at home go and mark. This is the duodenum. This part is the duodenum. Very mark. This part is the duodenum. हाँ. What? Stomata. ये draw. You draw. और वाला सिस्टम को लिखा है ना. ये draw. कहाँ stomata? Pen labeling. पेंसिल से करो. ये लूज मार्क्स. बाकी लोगों को टाइम नहीं मिला. वापस करो. I'll ask you to do. देखो प्रैक्टिस करते रहो. In between, every day I will give you 2-3 questions at random to write. तो एक बार पढ़ के आओ. Others girls, complete किया diagram? Stomata? क्यों टाइम नहीं मिला? क्यों इतना busy? मॉल में गई थी. मूवी में गई थी. तो नेक्स्ट डायग्राम कंप्लीट किया कि नहीं होमवर्क? अच्छा, एक डायग्राम थोड़ा कम लग रहा है ना, वो होमवर्क याद नहीं रहे. तभी मैथ्स के जैसे मैं भी 25 क्वेश्चन देती हूँ तो याद रहेगा. मैथ्स बड़ा याद रहता है, करके भी याद है सब लोग. हाँ, तभी बायो को भी मिलने वाला है. सारे वॉल्यूम के क्वेश्चन मैं नहीं करूंगी, सब 10-10 क्वेश्चन हर दिन है होमवर्क. हाँ, तो मोर द मेरियर, अच्छा होगा. एक ही डायग्राम दिया था. व्हाई ऑल कांट फिनिश? हाँ, 3 दिया था. कहाँ से 3?
From stomata, nutrition in amoeba, human digestive system.
अच्छा, ह्यूमन डाइजेस्टिव सिस्टम भी किया.
न्यूट्रिशन इन अमीबा ही बोला।
ये तो malnutrition वाला लग रहा है, इतना छोटा डायग्राम में मार्क्स नहीं मिलेगा। Digestive system I did not give you, you have done it on your own, very good, I appreciate. But digestive system का diagram has to be drawn in one full page. Alimentary canal, digestive system सब लोग करके लाओगे. Girls, you did not show me. Those of you did not show me. You came last day for the first class, no? So are you continuing? तो जो already हो चुका है, you'll have to take from them. And others, diagram of the stomata. लिख के रखो question. हाँ, please. Please don't draw diagrams with a pen. Unnecessary marks जाएगा. इसमें तो ज़्यादा कुछ मेहनत नहीं है. Straight away you can pick 2 marks, 3 marks. Two questions लिख के रखो and 2 blank pages रखो so that you know कि this work अभी complete करना है. Number 1, draw structures of open and closed stomata. Draw well-labeled diagrams of open and closed stomata. Only with pencil, ना? No drawing pen कुछ नहीं. Draw diagrams of well-labeled diagrams of open-closed stomata. And next है human digestive system. This diagram will have to draw. This diagram will have to draw.
This will come for the exams.
Human digestive system, yes. Stomata तो आता ही है, that's very common. And human digestive system, respiratory system, structure of the human heart, part by part I will tell you. तो motor skills थोड़ा सा बढ़ाओ, करो, थोड़ा सा diagrams practice करो. हाँ? प्री प्राइमरी में कितने लोगों को A+ मिलता था ड्राइंग में? A भी चलेगा, not a problem. अरे वाह, अब तो क्या प्रॉब्लम है? A+ A किसी को नहीं मिलता था A? क्या मिलता था? हाँ? इतना याद नहीं. What about you? A मिलता था? Right में नहीं. तो थोड़ा सा मेहनत करो. At least 2 marks जो है question, I don't want you all to miss out those. एक basic standard diagram draw करोगे, you will get marks. Not to worry. Boys are generally not that much into drawing, but still थोड़ा मेहनत करो, you can pick up marks. Now we talk about this. I was talking about the functions and the parts of the duodenum. I think all of you have labeled this. Now यहाँ पे label करो jejunum. This part you label jejunum. In that diagram, the first part here called jejunum label करो, and this part label करो ileum. This part, the last part label करो ileum. कहीं पे भी, यहाँ पे कहीं पे भी label करो jejunum. That is not very specific, but you should get an idea. The mid part, the last part. The last part is ileum. Okay. Now we talk about the 3 parts.
Ileum or ileum?
Ileum. I-L-E-U-M. I-L-E-U-M. Well, now when we are talking about the parts of the small intestine, what are the parts of the small intestine? I told you the major part of the small intestine is the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. Now, how is the duodenum so special? If I talk about the duodenum, how is the duodenum so special? The duodenum receives the juices. Look at the duodenum. Is it having the pancreas on one side and the liver on the other? So the duodenum has the liver on one side, pancreas on the other. So duodenum carries out many steps of digestion since it has the liver and the pancreas on either side. So when we are talking about the duodenum, it's a very important part, and it receives, the duodenum receives the digestive juices from the liver and pancreas. It receives the digestive juices from the liver and the pancreas. We are going to understand the functions of these later, but jejunum we are not talking much because it only carries out the process of digestion. Let us talk about the ileum. Ileum is a very important part of the small intestine. How is the ileum a very important part of the small intestine? Let us come across that this ileum, when I understand, this ileum will always generally have a structure something like this. When we are talking about the ileum is extensively specialized. The ileum is extensively specialized with finger-like projections known as villi. What are villi? When we talk about this entire tube, just now I was showing you, the entire small intestine is divided into three regions. What were those three regions? The duodenum, the jejunum, ileum. I'm talking about only this right now. How is the ileum specialized? Talk about the section of the ileum. I talk about the ileum as a tube, and if I cut it cross section like this, I get to see that the entire ileum has extensive folds on the inner wall. It has got extensive folds in the inner wall, and since it has got extensive folds in the inner wall, it increases the surface area manyfold. Matlab, inner wall of the ileum, it looks very thin and narrow, but talking about these finger-like projections in hundreds and hundreds, the membrane space is much more. What is that one structural feature of the ileum? You are to write presence of villi. Presence of villi. What is the definition of the word villi? What are villi? Villi are finger-like projections. Villi are finger-like projections. From where? Villi are finger-like projections from the inner wall of the ileum. What are villi? Villi are finger-like projections from the inner wall of the ileum. And they increase. What is their significance? They increase the surface area for absorption. They increase the surface area for absorption. तो फिलहाल अभी ये concept याद रखना है that what is the significance of this villi? The inner wall of the ileum. Say suppose if I have to draw the inner wall of the duodenum, then how should I draw? The inner wall of the duodenum will be just like this. There are number of layers and layers of cells. That's it. I talk about draw the inner wall of the esophagus, the food pipe. No, all of them. Just like that. Layers and layers of cells and a white cavity inside. It is only in the ileum we come across a section something this way. It is only in the ileum, in no other part of the small intestine or the entire alimentary canal. So here what is it? What are these finger-like projections? They are known as villi. Now talking about these finger-like projections, they are in hundreds. Look into one single villus. अगर single है उसको क्या बोलेंगे? Villus. So when I talk about the villi, these are plural words. And if I have to talk about one single, उसको क्या बोलेंगे? Villus. Now what are some of the parts of the villus? What are some of the characteristics? Every single villus will have a large number of blood vessels. Because we are going to learn with reference to villus later a concept of absorption. So what are the two functions of small intestine I had mentioned earlier? The two functions of small intestine I already mentioned. Inside the small intestine, the process of digestion will happen. Yes, that's a separate context we are going to study later. What else will happen inside the small intestine? Absorption. But for that, we try to understand what is present inside the villus. The section of a villus show that they have got a line of cells or they have a wall which is so thin. Every single villus has got a wall. Can you see here made up of only one single line of cells? Meaning the wall is so thin. If the wall is so thin, will it allow the process of diffusion? Yes. Something like the lungs also that we are going to study in the next part of the chapter. This villus that I am talking about, what are some special features? Number one, the thin wall of the villus is always made up of a single layer of cells, allowing the process of diffusion. What is the meaning of diffusion? Molecules moving from a region of high to a region of low. Molecules moving. Now I may talk about molecules of glucose and amino acids after digestion should be able to cross the membrane and enter the blood. This is what is the meaning of absorption that we are going to learn later. So what are some special features of the villus जो ileum में है? What are some special features which allows absorption possible? Number one, the thin wall of the villus, which is made up of one single layer of cells, and number two, the profuse supply of blood vessels. ताकि diffuse हुआ और blood vessel में dissolve हो गया, and then the process of distribution can happen. Now, what are you supposed to write down? We'll take one question here. What is the significance of two questions here? Let us complete and then we'll again proceed. What is the significance of the small intestine? What is the significance of the small intestine being extensively long, thin, and coiled? What is the significance of the small intestine being extensively long, thin, and coiled? So, just now in the previous image, what did I show you? That the small intestine is extensively long, thin, and coiled. Now that I understand that the small intestine is extensively long, thin, coiled, what do you think? What must have been the significance? Can the food or the undigested food rush down? Since it is so thin and narrow and coiled, the food will pass down slowly. And if it is passing down slowly, what is the benefit? More time for efficient digestion. More time for efficient digestion. So we will write down that answer there. The food remains in the small intestine. The food remains in the small intestine for a longer period of time. The food remains in the small intestine for a longer period of time. And mixes with the digestive juices and mixes with the digestive juices, mixes with the digestive juices to carry out the efficient breakdown of, complex nutrients, efficient breakdown of complex nutrients to their complex nutrients to their simplest forms. To their simplest forms. Two functions of small intestine, I suppose all of you must have noted down. This is what is asked. Mention two functions of the small intestine. What are you supposed to write? Small intestine is that region of the alimentary canal where the process of digestion is all complete, many, many steps. And number two, carries out the process of absorption. Now we will write what is meant by absorption. What is meant by absorption? What is meant by absorption? Question mark. Continue the next same question. What is meant by absorption? Continue the same question. How are villi designed? How are the villi designed to carry out the process of absorption? How are the villi designed to carry out the process of absorption? Answer. What is absorption? I told you the first part. The movement of the simplest form of digested nutrients. Movement of simplest form of digested nutrients from the cavity of the ileum towards the blood vessel by diffusion is known as absorption. Are you understanding this part? Absorption kya hai? I have just introduced this word. What is absorption? The process and etc. in the next class. Absorption matlab kya hai? Now that the nutrients will be here, they have to enter through the villi and come into the blood. Isko absorption. Next part. How is the villi designed? How is it efficiently carrying out absorption? What are the 2 points I told you? Number 1 is this, and number 2 is this one. Let us write that. Number 1, the special features of the villi. Which enables absorption. Special features of the villi that enables absorption are: number 1,
Thin wall of
extremely thin wall. Point pe likho. Number 1, extremely thin wall made up of single layer of epithelial cells. Number 2, they are richly supplied with blood vessels. The last part of the alimentary canal now to talk about would be the large intestine, and when I am comparing, the large intestine is broader, the large intestine is shorter. I am comparing with the small intestine. The large intestine is short, the large intestine is broad. Then when I talk about the large intestine, there are also certain parts of the large intestine, but now I will talk about the functions first. Okay, let me talk about the parts first. The parts of the large intestine. What are the parts of the large intestine? The first is the cecum, the colon. Colon is the longest part of the large intestine. I'll show you the figure again. And then the third part that we talk about is the rectum. Talking about the function, does any type of a digestion occur in the large intestine? No. Digestion is all done in the small intestine. Large intestine may, when the partially digested food or the undigested food has gone, no more digestion. Then what is the function of the large intestine? Number 1 is absorption of water. Enough amount of absorption of water. And number 2 is formation of the waste substances, that is known as formation of feces. FAECES. कौन सा? Colon. Cecum. CAECUM. I use this word absorption of water. अगर absorption का मतलब समझ में आया है, now can you tell me, now that I say absorption of water, तो large intestine में absorption of water, that means what must be happening to that water?
Water is
From the large intestine कहाँ जा रहा है? To the blood. Very good. So now that I talk about the large intestine, short, broad as compared to small intestine. Second difference, no digestion takes place in the large intestine. Functions major is what? Large intestine only helps in the reabsorption or the absorption of the water and formation of the feces. FAECES, longest part. Rectum. Now you will write down, once you are done, two functions I have mentioned. Try writing down the last question there. Mention two differences between the large and the small intestine. Two differences between large and the small intestine. Will you be able to write? Likho, try karo. You have a doubt? Clarify. Points are very simple. I have written on the board also. Two differences. Presentation pe dhyan do. Start practicing from now on. Two differences between large and small intestine. लिखो कौन से points लिखने हैं? Two differences. एक है on the parts you can write. I'll give you the points. Based on this, you frame your answer. Differences I had asked you. First point you write on the parts. Second point you write about the broadness and the narrowness. All these points you write. The length and all these. And third, major function, digestion happening or not happening. So now let us write down. These are the points that we'll have to write. Now let us talk about the first part. You will write your answers. First part, first difference, parts. For small intestine, what are the parts? Small intestine, what were the parts? Duodenum, jejunum, ileum. Large intestine, what are the parts? Cecum, rectum, cecum, colon, rectum. Names you should be aware. Likho.
Rectum or rectum?
Rectum. RECTUM. Small intestine, likho. Consists of parts. Duodenum, jejunum, ileum. Duodenum, jejunum, ileum. Large intestine, cecum, colon, rectum. Okay, second point. Structural feature लिखेंगे. Second point what? Extremely long, narrow and coiled. Extremely long, narrow, coiled. Small intestine. Large intestine क्या लिखना है? Shorter and broader. Large intestine is short and broad. Shorter and broader. Number three, functions. One major function. Small intestine, you write, carries out digestion and absorption. Carries out. Carries out digestion and absorption. Small intestine, the other side. Large intestine helps in functions, absorption of water, helps in absorption of water and formation of feces, waste substances. Absorption of water and formation of feces. So we are done with the concept of alimentary canal. Next class we'll have to learn what are digestive glands. Now there are a number of enzymes, chemicals you'll have to remember. This part is very easy. parts याद रखना है. Major concept is about the bill as that I told you just. You get many questions on that. Next is, the next day we will learn the digestive glands, what are their secretions and the process of digestion. Okay, we'll continue.